What if I told you there's a book out there that could genuinely change the way you think, the way you make decisions, and even how you live your life? Well, that's exactly the promise of Poor Charlie's Almanack. It's this incredible masterclass in rational thinking from the absolute legend, Charles T. Munger. And in this explainer, we're going to dive in and unlock its most powerful secrets. Okay, so to help us navigate this wealth of wisdom, we've broken it all down into 6 key parts. We'll start with Munger's early years and take it all the way to his most timeless principles. So let's kick things off with a portrait of the thinker himself. All right, first up, portrait of a thinker. We're going to take a look at the life of the man himself, Charles T. Munger. Because, to really get his ideas, you have to understand the experiences that shaped his pretty unique worldview. So Charlie Munger was born back in 1924. In Omaha. And get this, his first real classroom wasn't a school. It was his grandfather's grocery store. I mean, can you imagine? He got a front row seat to human nature, day in and day out. And as a kid, he wasn't just reading books, no. He was literally racing through entire encyclopedias, just building this massive internal library of facts and ideas. His path was anything but straight. He jumped from studying meteorology to physics and then ended up at Harvard Law. And that legal training? It turned out to be absolutely crucial. It's what taught him to think in probabilities and to, ruthlessly cross-examine every single assumption. And those are the very skills that would later make him a titan in the investing world. So that really diverse background we just talked about, that laid the foundation for his totally unique approach to thinking, something he calls worldly wisdom. And honestly, this is where we really start to see the genius behind his methods. He has this great warning against what he calls physics envy. That dangerous urge to try and simplify every messy, complex problem into some neat, clean little equation. Yeah, he says that's a huge mistake. So what is this worldly wisdom he talks about? Well, think of it like this. It's all about breaking free from those silos of specialized knowledge. Where you only know about one thing. Instead of being a master of just one field, the idea is to build a mental toolkit with the best ideas from every discipline: psychology, economics, biology, you name it. It's really about seeing the world for what it is, a complex, interconnected system, not just a bunch of isolated problems. And that brings us right to his key concepts. First, you've got the latticework of mental models. That's basically the network of tools we were just talking about, right? Pulling the big ideas from psychology, biology, history, all of it. Then there's inversion, and this one is a really powerful mental trick. Instead of asking, okay, how can I succeed? You flip it on its head and ask, what would absolutely guarantee I fail? And then you just avoid doing those things. It sounds simple, but it is a profoundly different way to look at a problem. And finally, the circle of competence. This is all about knowing what you know, and this is the important part, knowing what you don't know. The whole game is to operate strictly inside that circle where you're an expert, and then work slowly and carefully to expand it. Okay, check out this story about a railroad engineer. It's a perfect example of this whole philosophy in action. So, this engineer was totally stuck on a really complex valve problem. The solution? It didn't come from an engineering textbook. Nope. It came from him remembering a specific chemical reaction from a chemistry class he'd taken years before. It just goes to show you, right? The solution to a tough problem can come from a totally unexpected place. But, and this is the key, only if you have a broad base of knowledge to pull from in the first place. But look, building that latticework of mental models, that's really only half the battle. You also have to be super aware of all the mental traps that can lead you completely astray. The built-in glitches in our own thinking. And that is what Munger's next huge idea is all about, the psychology of human misjudgment. And Munger identifies 25 of these cognitive biases that are just critical to understand. But here's the thing, he doesn't just hand you some dry academic list. No way. He brings them to life with these incredible stories and razor-sharp examples, stuff that will stick with you long after this explainer is done. So let's just touch on a few. First, incentive-caused bias. It's super simple. People do what pays them, but that can sometimes lead to disastrous results. Then there's social proof. Think about the last time you bought something online just because it had thousands of great reviews. Yep, that's social proof. The liking/loving tendency. That's where we tend to just accept ideas without question if they come from people we admire. Reciprocity is that feeling, that powerful urge to return a favor, even a small one, sometimes in a big way. And finally, availability bias. You know how a dramatic plane crash sticks in our minds way more than the boring statistics on car accidents? That's availability bias, making us totally misjudge the real risks. Munger tells this story about a CEO. Imagine this guy. He's so captivated by a smooth-talking seller, so blinded by the promise of a quick win, that he completely ignores all the red flags. He got totally taken in by that liking tendency and the allure of a shortcut. And the result? A catastrophic acquisition that cost his company billions. See, that's exactly what happens when you don't understand how these biases work. Okay, so understanding our cognitive biases is a huge first step. But the next step is to arm ourselves with a set of practical tools to actually counteract them and start making better decisions. And that's exactly where we're going next, applying Munger's worldly wisdom out in the real world. Munger's toolkit is just packed with powerful ideas. Take opportunity cost. That's not just some dry economic term. For him, it's a way of life. It's about recognizing that every time you say yes to one thing, you're automatically saying no to something else. He's also huge on the power of compound interest, just letting time do the heavy lifting for you. Then you have something called Bayesian updating. Don't let the name scare you, it's just about being a flexible thinker. It means you're willing to change your mind when the facts change, which, let's be honest, is a super rare and incredibly valuable skill. And finally, he constantly warns us to avoid the standard triggers for bad decisions, like envy and overreaction. Okay, now let's see one of Munger's most powerful thinking tools in action. I'm talking about inversion. And he uses this absolutely brilliant thought experiment to show how it works. So let's say you want to live a long, healthy life. The question is, how would you guarantee that? Now, the typical approach would be to make a list of all the things you should do, right? Eat well, exercise, etc. But Munger inverts it. He flips the question around and asks, what would absolutely guarantee a miserable, unhealthy life? And then you list all those things. A terrible diet, never exercising, constant stress, and then you just don't do them. I mean, it's so simple, but it's incredibly effective. Instead of chasing a vague goal like being healthy, you're laser focused on avoiding what is guaranteed to make you sick. It's a total game changer. All right, so let's see how Munger applies these same powerful thinking tools to his own world, investing. And his rules are, as you might guess, both simple and profound. He looks for businesses with strong, durable competitive advantages, what he calls moats. He absolutely insists on honest management you can trust. He demands a margin of safety, which just means buying something for less than it's actually worth. And he's always warning people to beware of EBITDA mania, that Wall Street obsession with a fancy metric that can easily hide a company's real problems. For Munger, at the end of the day, it all boils down to one simple thing: cash flow. Cash flow is king. He tells this cautionary tale about a CEO who built a massive empire on a mountain of hidden debt. And it's just this stark reminder that you can't fake financial reality forever. Sooner or later, the cash runs out. But look, Munger's wisdom isn't just for Wall Street types, not at all. It's really for anyone who wants to build a successful career and, more importantly, a meaningful life. So in this next section, we're going to explore his ideas on partnerships and the life lessons he's picked up over a long and truly remarkable career. I mean, the partnership between Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, it's legendary. It has to be one of the most successful in business history. It's this incredible story of two brilliant minds coming together to create something extraordinary. And fun fact, it was actually Munger who pushed Buffett away from his old strategy of buying cheap cigar butt stocks and convinced him to start investing in wonderful, high-quality businesses like See's Candy. Their whole success was built on a shared foundation of patience and integrity. And Munger's big lesson here is that this kind of cultural fit, it's way more durable and powerful than any spreadsheet could ever tell you. In one of his most famous speeches, Munger basically distilled his entire life philosophy down into a few key pieces of advice. And the first one is deserve what you want. Just think about that for a second. It's so simple, but so powerful. It's not about just wishing for success. It's about putting in the work to become the kind of person who deserves it. He also stresses choosing your partners in business and in life with extreme care. And of course, his other big ones: read constantly, avoid the poison of envy at all costs, and take care of your health above everything else. All right, let's bring it all home. We're going to wrap up by looking at the enduring principles that have guided Munger throughout his entire life. Think of these as the foundational ideas that can help you build a life of learning, integrity, and ultimately success. And Munger does not mince words when it comes to our education system or the way we structure our businesses. He argues that we're basically creating a world full of specialists who are totally blind to the bigger picture. For example, he points out how entire economics departments often just completely ignore the powerful force of human irrationality. I mean, how crazy is that? He truly believes this kind of siloed thinking is what's holding us back from solving the world's most complex problems. And in his final reflections, Munger leaves us with a few core principles that are frankly worth tattooing on our brains. Humility, just having the discipline to admit what you don't know and then go learn it. Patience, truly understanding that the real returns in life come from compounding over time, not from frantic, constant activity. An absolutely non-negotiable ethical foundation. Character defects, he says, always win out over intellect. And finally, the wisdom to know what to avoid, because sometimes the most important decisions you'll ever make are about the things you choose not to do. And his parting shot really just says it all. Wisdom comes not from schooling, but from living and reflecting, so live fully and think deeply. You know, when you boil it all down, the lessons in this book about mental models, understanding our biases, multidisciplinary thinking, they're really just tools for navigating any complex system, whether it's business or life itself. So the real question I want to leave you with is this. How are you going to apply these lessons to your own life? How are you going to start building your own latticework of mental models so you can think more clearly, make better decisions, and live a more successful life? The journey for all of us starts right now.